June saw games that were simply peak, so let's begin with Netherworld Covenant, a dark fantasy isometric action roguelite that is essentially a condensed Diablo-style experience in which you fight your way through procedurally generated dungeons packed with all sorts of enemies. Combat might be leaning more towards Path of Exile 2, with dodge rolls and parries thrown into the mix, as well as an ethereal dash ability to weave between aggressive enemies, while keeping an eye on your stamina as well. You can choose from special companions like the Swordsman, Ranger, Guardian or Rogue, each granting unique abilities, so if you love ARPGs, do give this a go. The 1.0 release of Path of the Abyss is also of interest, an old-school inspired first-person grid-based dungeon crawler RPG where you're exploring monochrome pen-drawn underground ruins. It is very classic in design, think wizardry or more recent entries like Legend of Grimrock, but with a distinctive Japanese flair to the title, and is one of the best looking games of the year in my opinion. This video is brought to you by Back to the Dawn, a prison escape RPG by developer Metalhead Games and publisher Spiral Up Games, in which you play as Thomas the Fox, an investigative journalist who was framed and incarcerated in a maximum security facility, having to learn to survive the nuances of prison life as you plot your escape. The prison runs on its own schedule, revolving around headcount, labor shifts, meal times, recreation, and lights out, where befriending the other inmates will be key to your survival. You train and improve your stats like strength, intelligence, agility, and charisma, which affects dialogue outcomes, job success rates, and available escape methods, each with its own risks, leading to several possible endings based on your choices. This graduated out of early access on July 18th, 2025, adding a whole new storyline featuring Bob the Panther, an undercover cop sent into prison to uncover a conspiracy, with each storyline being 20 plus hours of gameplay. Its launch discount will only apply until August 1st, so hurry and don't miss out. Get it on Steam or Xbox, links in the description below. Oh, and the developers are also running a giveaway via their official Twitter account, so head on over if you're interested in being in the draw. Another 1.0 release is Dragon is Dead, a dark fantasy 2D pixel art roguelite platformer that comes to us from the developer of the cyberpunk roguelite platformer Blade Assault, with this game switching up the theme and looks absolutely gorgeous. Think Blasphemous and you get the idea. Your main goal in the game is to stop the corrupted Dragon Lord and end his demonic invasion, battling through procedurally generated levels filled with grotesque demons and powerful bosses. There is plenty of variety in characters, weapons and builds involving runes and artifacts. Combat is precise, with dodges, counters and dashes being critical, drawing comparisons to Dead Cells in spots due to the art style and even visual flair. There is meta progression in the form of an extensive skill tree, not quite as large or insane as Path of Exile, but it is still substantial, with the 1.0 release adding a final story chapter and boss battle, along with a new character, new weapons, a new mythic equipment grade, and much more. So if you have been waiting for the full release, now is a great time to jump in. Squeakross Home Squeak Home is a cozy puzzle game which mixes nonograms or Picross grid-based logic puzzles with a decoration title, since solving the puzzles creates furniture, which you can then place in your home. It has hundreds of puzzles, which unlocks the corresponding number of decor items, but critically does not have any time pressure or scores, so to speak, allowing you to simply focus on solving these puzzles. There are tools like the Logic Assist system that lets you preview solutions with hints that can be toggled on or off, or even to solve a random square, being quite friendly for beginners. If you're new to this style of puzzles, your home is where the other half of the game takes place in, where you're able to place down fridges, chairs, bookcases and more, and even to customize the appearance of your rodents, being quite the charming casual puzzle game that is for fans of the genre. They did it again. From the developer of the Half-Life 2-like Dakar comes Project Silverfish, an immersive sim FPS in which you play as a customizable inheritor, choosing between 6 pre-made classes or making your own, scavenging a desolate, anomaly rich exclusion zone filled with supernatural horrors and warring factions. It blends Stalker-style open-world atmosphere with intense first-person action as you navigate laboratories, open fields and ruins, collecting artifacts, bartering with NPCs, managing hunger, and piecing together the mystery of humanity's downfall. Combat mixes stealth and classic firearms-based action with intelligent enemy AI which reacts to visibility and sound. There is a corpse run system where you drop your bag upon death, but it can be retrieved, with progression being mainly in the form of unlocking new weapons, tools, and perks, while completing dynamic questlines with reviews pointing towards Tarkov as well, and has an overwhelmingly positive rating, and given the developer history, could turn into something truly special. After Inc. Revival is from the developer of Plague Inc., so expectations were high since that game is one of the top rated strategy games ever, in which you were trying to spread a virus causing the zombie apocalypse. This game then answers the question what's next, being set in a post-zombie apocalypse world where you have to rebuild civilization, blending city builder, colony sim, management and light 4X strategy elements together. Begin by harvesting resources like wood, food, and scrap to construct homes, farms, lumberyards, and defensive structures, all while dealing with rogue zombies and other environmental hazards. Select a leader, each of which grants a unique ability and shapes your society, venturing out to explore and to discover new settlements. As your settlements grow, you face tough decisions such as whether to invest in welfare or military, how to ration food, and how, as a society, your colony is meant to run, which in turn affects morale and efficiency, having taken a fantastic first step in early access with more to come. I suppose Metro Gravity might fall in the hidden gems category since it only has 200 plus reviews as of this recording, but this is a surreal 3D Metroidvania with a throwback look which is as trippy as it is cool. Explore a labyrinthine dream world by bending gravity and flipping orientation, taking a bit to get used to since it allows you to walk on walls, ceilings, or rotate entire rooms as you navigate through interconnected spaces referred to as the halls. Traversal expands through upgradable tools like magnetic beams, dash boosts, and wall jumps, each unlocking access to new areas filled with spatial puzzles and challenges. Combat is also pretty interesting, having a rhythm component to it, as well as physics-based magic as you parry, jump, and dodge in time with the music. Of course, given the trippy world, exploration is non-linear, with branching paths and cryptic environmental storytelling that might hide a secret or two, being pretty cool and is certainly going under the radar. If it wasn't obvious enough, Wordatro is essentially word-based Balatro, a roguelite word game where you're trying to form words, Boggle style, but adds in elements of deck building and strategy as you attempt to maximize your score. Start with a random assortment of letters and try to spell high-value words to build combos that power up bonuses like rerolls, score multipliers, or special tile effects. Every choice matters because once you pick a bonus, it influences the next round, for example, extra points for using short words, boosting the score of rare letters, or chaining reroll strategies for bigger gains. The deeper you go, the more tactical it gets, having many unique upgrades which radically shifts your approach as you attempt to get that game-breaking build Balatro style and watch your score go crazy with the multiplier effects triggered. The minimal, colourful UI is clean and well designed, with a colour scheme that reminds me of 3's, so it is that kind of more casual approach while still having strategic depth and is a clever roguelite that will exercise your brain. I mentioned in a recent video that the paid, finite, incremental title is an interesting trend to watch in games, with Tower Wizard being an excellent example, having over 4,000 Steam reviews and a very positive rating. So needless to say, this is selling very well. You're building and upgrading your own wizard tower in order to harness spells and spirits across multiple runs. Click a glowing orb to gather arcane energy, then invest in upgrades that unlock automated generators like elemental spirits, knowledge harvesters, and research labs. The tower expands upwards and outwards as you not only add on to the tower but also construct additional buildings, all of which enable you to get more resources even more quickly, and so the gameplay loop goes on and on. Interestingly, this self-describes as an active incremental game, so you're not really encouraged to leave it running in the background while you do other stuff, but rather are to actively interact with it, while the automated elements still run, being quite fascinating in terms of game design. Of course, there is a prestige system, essentially New Game Plus, where you reset the game but have special upgrades that let you progress even faster and has a definitive end, meaning that you can play and be done with this game, which, to be honest, might be part of the appeal rather than having this loose thread hanging. Speaking of Wordatro likes, we're beginning to see a lot more of these, but are themed differently enough and have unique UIs which still makes it feel fresh, where Rentlord has you building up a property empire by buying buildings, installing strategic plugins, and navigating unpredictable financial events like taxes and tenant quirks as you attempt to extract enough rent to pay your loans in each round. The strategy comes in since you're not only saving your money to spend on new income-generating properties, but also to purchase plugins, essentially the relics equivalent from other roguelites, such as double rent received from newly bought properties, or giving a 10% chance to double rent collected whenever that triggers. This, of course, leads to build variety and possible strategies for the run, with the equivalent of boss blinds as well, which throw unpredictable scenarios at you to ramp up the challenge, with plans of post-launch support to add even more game modes and plugins despite not being an early access release. But if you love this style of score multiplying game, then it should definitely be of interest. We also had the 1.0 release of Galactic Glitch, a physics-driven action roguelite space shooter in which you pilot a ship, battling your way through combat arenas. You have access to a gravity gun that lets you grab asteroids, enemy missiles, or even to rip parts off enemy ships, with the arenas themselves being a physics bubble of sorts, which you can use to slingshot asteroids to hit enemies. This is on top of regular weapons and special abilities being fast-paced and frantic as you dash to avoid attacks, reposition yourself, and find the most efficient way to take out your enemies. The branching paths lead to mini-boss encounters, upgrade stations, and more, allowing you to customize your build with plenty of unlocks between runs as well. The 1.0 release added a whole bunch of new stuff, including new ships named Prototypes, which drastically altered the game, and as of recording, they are up to version 1.11, making 11 smaller updates and patches to fix and add to the game, with plans for even more content, so if you love roguelites, this should be of interest. Ship Inc. is a cozy job simulator in which you step into the boots of a packaging specialist, managing everything from sorting and carefully bubble wrapping fragile goods to selecting the right box size and sealing orders for delivery. Orders arrive and get queued up, so you need to balance speed and precision, having to be both quick and accurate in order to meet your deadlines. As you earn money, you upgrade your workstation with better tools and equipment, which allows you to do your job more efficiently, with the complexity of assignments increasing as you progress further into the game. I do love the visual style as well, looking cute and cozy, which does hide quite an intense experience, and if you love this, do check out their previous title, Lost and Found, which is in a similar vein. What is old is new again in Void War, a grimdark roguelite strategy game where you command an ancient gothic starship plunging into the heart of a dying empire, where demented cultists, space pirates, and xenophobic soldiers relentlessly assault your vessel, essentially being FTL cross Warhammer 40k but without the naming or license. For those of you unfamiliar with the indie classic, you are making your way across a node-based map while enemy forces relentlessly pursue your ship from behind, having to stop to investigate random events which might get you critical resources or even new crew members, or, depending on your choices, could lead to the loss of the same. Or, these encounters could be straight up combat scenarios or where you get ambushed, then switching to a tactical overhead view with real-time combat, where you have to order your crew to man stations depending on the situation. These can include shields, weapons, and engines as you try to target the critical systems on the enemy vessel, but beware of fire spreading on board or enemies boarding your ship, where you then have to engage them in combat. You are getting upgrades for your ship during the run, allocating crew skills and artifacts, and adapting to the encounters presented to you, and with permadeath have to restart if you fail. The vibes are immaculately done, portraying a similar kind of grim darkness as the 41st millennium, but it's just different enough from FTL that I'm comfortable putting it on the list. I was very interested to see the reception to BitCraft Online, since this is a persistent sandbox MMORPG in which you and every other player share a single world, shaping the landscape, founding towns, and carving empires through exploration, trade, and communal effort, being an alternative to MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft, since it is doing something different, and as of recording, it seems to be doing okay, having about 2,000 to 3,000 concurrent players 1 month on, which seems like a good number. Instead of leveling in a traditional sense, you progress through professions like mining, hunting, farming, building, and tailoring, each with their own mastery tiers, which unlocks new tools and recipes. You gather resources from the environment, construct workshops and storage buildings, and collaborate with others to upgrade settlements, manage economies, and defend claimed land. You can effectively terraform the world itself, raising terrain, carving out rivers, and building ocean piers, or construct sprawling cities, which then remain visible to everyone else on the server, with the in-game economy being fully player-driven, so supply and demand will be king. There is combat in the form of a PvE survival element as you fight predators to get the resources you need, so I'm happy that there is an alternative, so if interested, I would advise jumping in sooner rather than later, since who knows how long community interest in this game would last. I have to mention the 1.0 release of Supermarket Simulator as well, a tremendously popular first-person shop management simulator in which you take control of a small grocery store and grow it into a bustling business by handling everything from deliveries to pricing, stocking, and customers, being so popular that it spawned an entire subgenre of clones and other developers attempting to capture a fraction of its success. Order inventory, unpack shipments, and place products onto shelves, literally by hand, setting prices and keeping things organized, then open the doors and welcome customers in. Man the cash register during the day and reinvest profits to buy more goods, eventually expanding the store, unlocking licenses for new types of goods which each have their own requirements in terms of storage and display. Eventually, hire employees to help and gradually automate the process, then concern yourself with the bigger picture of taking on loans to set up more locations and the like, having a very satisfying gameplay loop which is worth a try, or at least watching some YouTube videos on it to get the idea. Yet another 1.0 release is Rooftops and Alleys, a parkour-focused 3D platformer that drops you into expansive maps where movement mastery is key, blending fast-paced navigation, trick training, and timed challenges in solo as well as multiplayer. You sprint, vault, wall run, slide, and wall jump across rooftops, shipping containers, and urban structures with an intuitive control system that rewards flow and momentum rather than scripted animations. A deep combo system tracks your movement variety, where repeating the same moves reduces the score, so creativity keeps your runs fresh and high scoring. Each map features hidden spots, time trials, and trick running challenges that encourages exploration and replayability and must be experienced if you love getting in the flow. Interestingly, it has multiplayer support with modes like Tag, Capture the Flag, and Trick Battles, letting up to 4 players compete or free roam together. Interesting but not wholly necessary, with bronze, silver, and gold medals to get for each challenge, as well as unlocking customization options, so if you love trick-focused sports titles like Tony Hawk, then this will certainly be worth picking up. Tiny Aquarium Social Fish Keeping is a casual, idle social fish keeping sim in which you maintain and grow a virtual aquarium that can be minimized to live on the bottom of your screen. You can hatch and sell more than 70 species of fish collected through a fishing minigame that can be played solo, but the social fish keeping aspect means that you can chat with others and see their tanks as well. You can use your earnings to purchase more plants, decorations, backgrounds, and toys, getting your economic engine going to unlock even more stuff and to get more fish, but is very casual and relaxing, with a wonderful art style as well that uses polygonal models but not exactly low poly nor hyper detailed or even voxel art, but it works and is a good game. I know there are a lot of action roguelites, but if you, despite everything, still love them like me, then Lost in Random The Eternal Die will be of interest. A spin-off of the action-adventure title with largely the same setting, but where you play as Queen Alexandra with her sentient die companion Fortune as you attempt to escape an eternal prison. This is all classic roguelite stuff in terms of action and structure, having fast-paced, intense action with weapon variety to keep things interesting. The world, setting, art style and enemies are neat as well as you fight off nightmarish creatures, with inspiration being a mix of Tim Burton's style as well as Alice in Wonderland in my opinion. Luck plays a factor since you can roll fortune, and depending on the outcome of the roll will result in rewards or penalties. In between runs, meta progression lets you unlock new weapons, relics, cosmetic outfits and stat modifiers that affect future runs, and is a very well made one of these, suffering perhaps from genre oversaturation. Alright, 11-bit studios might technically be independent, but they are quite a large studio in terms of headcount, so there is a caveat with the alters. But taking a step back, it is impressive to see what they have done with their own internal team with games like Frostpunk as well as their publishing efforts, all of them being bangers for some reason, so the combination of quality and output is very impressive. Their latest release is a narrative action-adventure title with survival and base-building elements, where you play as the sole survivor of an ill-fated space expedition trying to survive and escape a hostile alien planet. However, one man isn't much of a crew, so you can conveniently clone yourself, but not just regular clones, but alternate versions of the character, hence the alters, such as the scientist, miner, or technician. These can be put to work manning various stations in your mobile base, but are also characters in themselves, with their individual fears, needs, and relationships affecting productivity and decision making. You have to efficiently expand your base to survive, going out to get resources, but having to avoid deadly solar radiation by being on the move, resulting in quite the fascinating entry, which is certainly worth a play. Yet another 1.0 release is Yaoling Mythical Journey, a creature collecting RPG in which you explore an expansive fantasy world inspired by Eastern mythology, assembling teams of these creatures to fight, craft and build a village in your quest to restore balance to the world. Select up to 7 Yaolings and place them in formation, engaging in auto-battler combat where positioning and passive skills determine the outcome. But you can influence this by casting your own spells and abilities. Each Yaoling has distinct traits and role specializations, from tanks, damage dealers or support, and can be evolved as well. Outside of combat, you assign creatures to mine resources, cook meals, tend to gardens, and build facilities in your growing village, generating resources and unlocking passive bonuses to push you along, with an impressive number of creatures as well, and is an interesting alternative in this space. One more 1.0 release is Soulstone Survivors, one of the most successful bullet heaven roguelites, following in the footsteps of Vampire Survivors, where you select one of many Void Hunters and obliterate waves of monsters using layered skill builds, dodge-based mobility, and an evolving arsenal of active and passive abilities. Each run begins with a base weapon and a small pool of abilities, which quickly expands as you gain experience and select from a randomized pool of spells and upgrades, stacking effects like bleed, poison, and other elements. It is standard bullet heaven action as you face off against hundreds of enemies, but can aim your attacks, with later parts of the run being visually overwhelming with the sheer amount of stuff on screen, cranking up the slot machine aspect of such games in the visuals department. We are also collecting soul stones to unlock new characters, runes, weapons, and meta traits that carry over into future runs, with the escalating boss encounters being of note as well, and is just an excellent one of these. The idle game is making a comeback in 2025, with Cast and Chill being the perfect example of such a title, an idle plus active fishing sim with gorgeous pixel art where you explore tranquil lakes, rivers, and other bodies of water, dropping lines to catch fish, selling them, purchasing upgrades so that you can catch bigger fish, and so on. You start with basic gear and begin your angler journey, eventually upgrading your rods, reels, boats, and lures, with an idle mode that lets you catch fish automatically, in addition to the active fishing element. There are so many locations to explore and different types of fish to catch, so if you love Pokemon like me, I'm sure that the catch-em-all aspect will appeal to you. Of course, this game is a work of art, with some of the most amazing pixel art that I have seen, especially in terms of water reflections, which, along with the mood, soundtrack, and even dog companion that goes with you, makes this an absolute joy. New launches are risky business in June, which is why 1.0 releases are overrepresented here, where we are looking at Lens Island, an open-world survival crafting sandbox where you awaken on a chain of mysterious islands and make your own path through exploration, combat, farming, and building, with the option for seamless co-op for, get this, up to 8 players. You start with basic gear and do survival game stuff like chopping down trees to build better tools and eventually a base. Use crafting benches to forge magical gear, and you can also cook meals, brew potions, and construct structures like bridges which affect the world, along with farming and animal husbandry, also having towns with vendors and NPCs, so that in itself is a lot already. But wait, there's more! Combat here is pretty developed as well, as you delve into underground dungeons and battle enemies in real-time combat where dodging and counter-attacks will be critical. You can also jump, and really does have quite the impressive variety in biomes, gear, combat style, and is simply packed with content and is among the best games of the year. The insane success of Peak is something to behold, starting off life as a Game Jam title, and is the brainchild of two of indie development's finest in Landfall and Aggro Crab, where the numbers behind this are insane, where I saw announcements of it selling 250,000 copies, then 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, and it keeps going. This is a co-op climbing survival game that drops up to 4 scouts onto a procedurally generated mountain each day, where the goal is to scale the towering mountain using throwables, pitons, ropes, and more, while managing your stamina under constant threat from environmental hazards and mysterious entities. You can sprint, jump, and climb through 4 biomes in order to reach the peak, finding ways to get past obstacles and hazards like collapsing rocks, slippery surfaces, and cliffs. cooperation is vital since players can rope each other up walls, toss gear to teammates, or revive fallen comrades, but can be played solo as well. Each day delivers a fresh layout, so there is replayability, and while some parts might be similar, no two climbs are ever the same. There is stamina to manage, and some weird stuff thrown in which you might or might not have encountered depending on how many mountains you have played, adding a sense of discovery which is interesting for a daily title. There are also cosmetics to unlock to personalize your character, with of course this reaching Cult of the Lamb levels of memes in terms of how peak this game is, but again, what a success story, which is always nice to see. I went back to check and was shocked to find out that Deltarune Chapter 1 did surprise release way back in October 2018, so that's 6 coming 7 years now, with chapters 3 and 4 just releasing in June, and was a substantial enough package to be released as a commercial product, even if there are additional chapters to come. This is a parallel story to the indie mega hit Undertale with a raving fan base that is one of the craziest things that I have seen, with each chapter release being huge monumental events, so to say that chapters 3 and 4 were highly anticipated would be a little bit of an understatement. Similar to Undertale, this is an RPG that bends the rules, framed like a turn-based Japanese-style RPG, but is doing interesting things with the options in combat, from bullet hell and dodging to more interesting special abilities and skills. So if you have any interest, now is a great time to get it, since subsequent chapters will be free releases added on. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.